Okay, fabulous. All right. So let's start with a little grounding. I think I need it. And and here we are together. So if you were just joining me, whether in person or online, I'm Melissa Smith. I'm a clinical mental health therapist in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So I work with mental health. I also work quite a bit with caregivers of Alzheimer's and other dementia through a local program here called Memory Care Alliance. And then I've worked for years with Hilarity for Charity when I ran a nonprofit for caregivers for a decade. So I kind of know the experience of a caregiver from the long distance caregiver perspective, and observing my father caregive for my stepmom who had early onset. So today's practice, really, yoga is yoga. So it's interesting that we've categorized these by caregivers based on what your needs are. But I would say we're all sort of in the human category. So we want to just pay attention, right, to the litmus of what's happening in our bodies in the moment. So we're going to do a little bit of centering. We're going to do some standing work today. I've got a little chair. You might make sure you've got access to a wall. So if you know your balance is a little bit off today, that might be a good idea to have a little bit of a support for you or an offering. You may also find that you want, when we do sort of to finish our practice, lie down, that you want a blanket or a pillow, so you can kind of grab whatever's nearby. Or if you're watching this later, you can pause and go get a few things. But it's not necessary to have all the tools and the toys. You just kind of do with what you can. And I find that is more useful than trying to make it perfect. So, finding a way to organize how you're sitting, it doesn't matter. You can be lying down if you prefer. Um, the only thing when I say organize, it's really about your spine. So, noticing if you're kind of kyphotic in the upper shoulders or hunched forward, or if you're overdoing it and propping up, you just want to kind of move or wiggle until you feel as if your spine is sitting somewhere in the center of the body and that you've got a little more access to breath. So you can have a low gaze of the eyes, or you could close your eyes, however it feels most comfortable for you. And just notice, this is probably one of my favorite offerings, is to notice that the body is already breathing, that your body is intuitive. It's constantly monitoring and working for your good or your best interest. Otherwise, we would have to command our bodies to breathe in and out all day, and it just breathes itself. So you might notice the air coming in at the edge of the nose. You might notice some expanding of the belly or the back or the ribs. And every exhale, see if you can soften something. So it might be the shoulders, it could be your jaw, it could be the space around your eyes, it could be your thoughts. So just observing kind of maybe what's popping up for you. And can I just gently dampen what is coming up or arriving? Or do I need to sit with it for a few moments and say, okay, hi, sadness or grief or frustration or pain, just acknowledging what is arriving, but not necessarily actively dancing with it. Take just a few more breaths to just notice what's happening inside the body, inside the mind, and around the heart space. We're going to move in just a moment a little closer to the body, meaning sort of from the physical layer to the pranic layer, which is basically noticing the breath. And as we notice the breath, we're going to alter it. So we'll take actually a double exhale. So we'll inhale fully here when you're ready. And we're we're going to exhale 2 times. So exhale till you feel like you get to the bottom, and then exhale a little bit more. You're going to feel the low belly pull up a little. And then inhale full. Exhale twice. So exhale till you feel like you're kind of at the bottom of the breath. And then exhale just a little bit more and feel how, right, the belly pulls in and underneath the ribs. And do that one more time. Inhale, big and full and expansive, softening the jaw. And then a double exhale. So exhale for as long as it feels comfortable. And then one more time, exhaling. Perfect. Now normal breathing. Breathe in and breathe out. Do you notice that perhaps the length of your exhale is a little bit longer and that there's a little more room for expanding the inhale? So I'll offer this pranayama or breath practice as a way to, right, whenever we exhale, it lowers the heart rate, essentially decreasing the cortisol response or the stress response, but as a way of sort of bringing grounding, of bringing more attention to the breath and the body. So you can use it anytime in practice. That would be useful. And also seeing if you can remember that breath. It's a regular inhale and a double exhale to perhaps practice later today. And then we'll just set a very gentle intention for our practice today. And I keep coming back to this idea, and it seems to be a theme the last couple of weeks for me, is just practicing with a sense of equanimity. One of the other caregivers and I were kind of talking about this without talking about it. It's like, gosh, this is happening, and yet I sure like how my person I'm caring for is responding to it. Or it's beautiful outside. It's such a gorgeous day, especially where I am right now. And in other parts of the world, there's not so great things happening, right? We can hold these sort of truths, these realities together without really feeling, right, like we have to be on the roller coaster with it. But we can really step back and observe it. So as you practice today, something might come up, a frustration about a body movement, or maybe a thought about what you might be doing later. See if you can not jump on the roller coaster and just simply watch it. And notice if it just dampens a little bit on its own. It may not go away because it's, right, situations happen around us. But typically speaking, it is our response to it. And if we can aim for like a 5-to-1 ratio, right? Like, can I be more observing at least 4 out of the 5 times if I have a 1 reaction, right? So can I just sort of begin to respond as an observer, noticing things first? All right, so as we begin our practice today, we're actually going to start in child's pose. If child's pose doesn't work for you, I'll show you an alternative for that. I'm going to scoot this back just a little so we can get a little more visual of my mat there. And hopefully you can still see me. All right, yep, you can still see full body, Melissa. And I'm going to come down into child's pose. So child pose requires some hip flexion, also knee flexion and ankle flexion, right? So it's quite a bit of joint actions. If you find that this does not work for your body, an option would be to be here on all fours. Another option would be to be simply on your back, pulling the knees into the chest. But we will be moving from child's pose. So just kind of noting that being probably in all fours or a variation of child's pose would probably be the best for where we're going next. So however you decided to organize your body in this shape, begin to walk the arms forward. And as you walk the arms forward and bow the head down, notice where your weight resides. It's probably in your feet and in your knees due to your pelvis and your center of gravity. Consider pushing down with your feet just a little bit to give a little lift of the pelvis. If you're working with something like sciatica or SI pain, you might imagine actually moving the feet out to the outer edges of the mat, and that will broaden the sacrum. And that action would be appropriate for really just about the rest of the class. On your next breath, we'll gently walk the hands over to the right or off the mat. If that doesn't feel right for you, do less. And the idea is to get a stretch from the pelvis up through the shoulders and the arms. So just noting who you are in this shape. Maybe you'd only just take a slight angle just to get some space in the spine. So noting what feels best for your body. Take an extra breath here. And then gently walk your hands to the other side. Stretching the arms long and forward. See if you can start to feel the space ripple up through the lower lumbar, all the way up through the shoulders and into the hands. And then walk the hands back through the center, push through the feet, and come into an all fours position. Maybe rocking the hips side to side and just noticing any restrictions or freedom that you might feel in the hips and the pelvis today. And then if it makes sense for you to create a circular motion, it's as if you're drawing a circle around both knees. So as I scoot back and forward, it's a big hip circle. If that doesn't feel right for you today, then continue to go in the sagittal plane forward and back. Otherwise, you're creating a nice big circle around both knees. So it's hip flexion and then hip extension. Noticing the pressure and the weight on the hands. If that's too much for the wrist, you could go to your forearms and take that pressure off of the wrist. So just listening to the body, and then reverse the circle if you haven't done so already. And notice if you can find a pattern of movement that matches your breathing pattern, or let your breathing pattern initiate the movement, whichever makes sense for you today. And then settle somewhere just gently in the center. You'll glide your left leg back, keeping your left toe in the ground, and slowly begin to rock forward and back. As you rock forward and back, you're keeping that pressure along the opposing shin bone so that there's less pressure in the kneecap of that right leg. And as I rock forward and back, noticing any stretch sensations in the back of the leg, through the calf, through the hamstring. And there's a general, because I'm pushing up through my hands, there's a general lift of the low belly. So when we talk about yoga being sustainable, you always want to ask, what makes sense for me in this moment today? And how am I going to feel the next day or 3 days after? Slowly float that left leg up or keep it on the floor. You get to choose. Then slowly take the right arm forward, either keep it on the floor or float it up. So it is an asymmetrical position, so just noticing what feels right for you today. Take another full breath there. And when you're ready, float the arm and float the leg down. You'll take the hands and walk forward. I'm going to keep my pelvis and my knees in a line, and I'll just gently walk my arms forward. The idea is not to collapse here, but to push down enough with the hands to feel like you've got balloons in your armpits. And as I reach the tailbone back, I keep the hands stationary. So I'm getting a stretch all the way through the back. Good. And the breath is steady. Can you steady your breathing in such a way that it actually supports each of the movements? And then on your next breath, walk your hands back up underneath the shoulders. On your next inhale, press down with the left or opposite shin bone and take the right toe back. You'll slowly flex and reach through the heel. So I'm just doing this gentle rocking sensation, but there's a lot of pressure through the ball of my foot, enough to alleviate pressure on the knee on the other leg. I'm also pushing evenly through both my right and left hands, as well as my finger pads. And as I rock forward and back, I'm noticing how that feels in the back of the leg and what feels stable for me. You have the option when you go still to lift the back leg and stretch it behind you or keep it on the floor. You have the option, and I'll demonstrate on the floor this time, to keep the opposite arm forward, either lifting both arm and leg or simply keeping them on the floor for balance. This bottom arm pushes strong. I almost want to feel like I'm rounding my shoulders so that I have stability in the shoulder joint. One more breath there. And then exhale, lower the leg and lower the hand. We're going to curl the toes under and gently coax the hips back. So you're taking your time and you might decide, oh, this is enough of a stretch right here. But as you keep going back, what feels good for you and what is possible today? So the more that I reach my pelvis back, there's more pressure or load on the feet. Now, if I start to walk up, there's going to be more load on the feet. If I walk further up, there's even more load in this shape. So you can be anywhere along this path to get the stretch in the soles of the feet. Wherever you are, you can take the shoulder rolls. We're going to take the shoulders and lift them toward the ears and roll them back and around. So if your hands are on the floor, you can still do these shoulder rolls. If you're sitting up and back, you can do the shoulder rolls there. So the idea is that they're in parts. So I want to roll the shoulders up, together, and down. Up, together, and down. And so I'm really trying to segment the shoulders and just use the upper body. So I'm really letting the lower body stay pretty still with this. One more set of shoulder rolls, just noticing what that's like and how the feet are probably talking to you now. All right. We're going to flip the toes back over and either take child's pose, all fours, or we'll begin a position of downward dog. If that is not for you, then I would say take all fours, take forearms, or child's pose. If you're moving into downward dog, you start with those flexed feet, move the pelvis back, and lift the pelvis high. The idea is to lengthen out through the arms to reach back through the heels. Your heels do not have to connect to the floor. In fact, if you're giving up shoulder range of motion just to get heels, I would say this is not the pose for that. I would say consider bending your knees so that you can have straight arms to reach through and connect shoulders to hips. So that would be more important than to have straight legs and your shoulders forward. That's sort of a plank hybrid. So either bent knees, reaching back, or straighter legs, but you're still reaching the tailbone back. You'll soften the knees here a whole lot. This is where, and you'll walk your hands back. If you have a chair or blocks that you would like to use, this would be a good place to use that, especially if you're a little unsteady today. You'll have your weight into the right leg and step the left leg forward. As the left leg steps forward, I'll place my finger pads on the floor or on blocks. As I start to shift my hips up, notice how I'm pushing through both feet. So a lot of times what we do is we lift up and then try to come up from there. That's probably the hardest path. But if I have my hands on the blocks and I move from the heaviest part of my body, which is my pelvis, I push through the feet to lift the pelvis. I'm going to take the back foot and bring it in, and then inhale and come up. If I have SI stuff, I'm instead putting my heel in the ground. I'm going to lift my heel and both knees and toes are forward. So with both knees and toes forward, you'll start to bend the front knee. You could have the back leg straight, or with sciatica, it's probably going to feel better to have the back knee bent. And imagine broadening across the sacrum. So if you'd like to try this variation, both knees are bent. The front ball mound of the foot is pushing forward, and you've got your back heel pretty lifted. The arms can stay forward, Or we just practice that position and the shape in the body of stretching the arms up. So take another full breath here, probably feeling that in the legs right now. Shin is pressing forward. And then exhale, we're going to stretch the arms forward, step forward, coming into Mountain or Tadasana. Pause here, close the eyes just for a moment. Check in with the body. How does the right side feel versus the left side? Which foot feels flatter, wider, broader? Are both feet feeling the same? Can you soften the breath enough to feel enlivened by it? So it's not all up in my upper chest, which tends to be our habit usually throughout the day. But can I either do that double exhale or find a way to notice the breath can ground me? Good. Your breathing practice, your breath, is the one autonomic thing in which controls the heart rate. And you can also, right, it's an autonomic, but you can also change it. So there's so much power and agency in that. On your next breath, we're going to take just a little bend of the knees and a sit back. So bend the knees and sit back, stretch the arms either forward or up. So it's a little mini fierce pose, or Utkatasana is what this is called, chair. We'll fold all the way forward. You can either rest the forearms on the thighs as my hips go back, or if a full forward fold is appropriate, you can cascade over the tops of the legs. Draw the crown of the head down and tuck the chin slightly into the chest. So there's this sense of something falling off the back of the neck. Tip a little bit of weight forward toward the balls of the feet. That's going to get you out of your hamstrings a little bit and a little more into a co-contraction of the legs. One more breath here and a complete breath out. You're going to keep the opposite leg forward, which would be your right foot this time, and step the left leg back. You'll remember we're lifting from the pelvis to lift the heart of the chest. If my balance is precarious, I'm going to walk the front foot further out to widen my space. So here, I can bend both knees. That's a variation. It's called Anjaneyasana versus Virabhadrasana 1, which is back heel down. So if you're working with SI step, lift the back knee. Inhale, let the arms raise all the way up. If that makes sense for you, you can also have the arms forward. Continue to bend the front knee, moving it forward, and continue to lift the back heel. As you lift the back heel, there's almost this sense of push, like pushing forward, and there's a sense of push, pushing back with the front foot. Take another breath here, breathing in and breathing out. Then on your next exhale, lower the hands down toward the ground, either all fours or downward dog. A full breath in and a complete breath out. So we'll slowly float the knees down and shift the weight forward. As you come forward, lower to the ground at the same time. So when I shift forward, I'm using that momentum to lower down. The tops of the feet push down, the pelvis and pubic bone presses to the floor, and the shoulder blades roll back. Then begin to lift the heart and the chest. Consider letting go of the floor. So when I let go of the floor, I get a really accurate sense of what my actual range of motion is. There's a sense of the shoulder blades coming in toward the spine and the elbows moving back into my back pockets. The tops of my feet are down. That's a little harder. And then my pubic bone presses down as well. Take one more breath here. Breathe in, easy on the neck and eyes. And then exhale, lower the hands, lower the nose. Remember, we're going to use functional movement. So when I start to push with my hands, I want to bend as soon as I can from my hips. So when I push, I start to bend from the hips to reach them back. Either take child's pose or downward facing dog. Taking a full energetic breath here and maybe a double exhale. Inhaling and a double exhale. You'll soften the knees, and you can either bend the knees to come down and step one leg forward, or you can step that leg all the way through and forward. We'll step with the right foot this time. You'll spin your back heel down, and as I have the right foot forward and my back heel down, I'm going to open up to the side. This is called Warrior Two. If you're working with SI stuff, the front foot, which we normally cue straight forward, would be a little more angled. That's going to broaden the sacrum. So it's not a traditional Warrior Two, but it's keeping a sense of hip separation. And so it looks a little bit more like, if you know Skandasana, that's the shape it looks like. So if we're doing a traditional Warrior Two, the toe and the knee point the same direction. The front lip of the pelvis lifts as opposed to sinking. So I'm going to push down with the front foot to lift the pelvis. Push away with the back foot. The arms float out to the side. And there's steadiness in the breath. Good. Typically, right, you might have instructors cue to look over the hand. Certainly looks very fierce. But you can look anywhere you like. It's not an obligation to have your gaze over the front finger. But there is a buoyancy to the arms rather than a rigidity or stiffness. So can I feel as if my arms are these two beautiful wings attached from the center of the spine, moving outward, and that there is voluminous breath that's happening here. If I find myself starting to sink, can I push down with the front heel to keep that natural buoyancy? One more breath there. Beautiful. And then exhale and let that go. We're going to take our hands and coming into a side angle. And for those of you that feel, again, have sciatica, your toe is slightly turned out. The angle is a little different. The pelvis can reach back a little bit. And then you take the hand either up or over. If I'm taking a traditional version, knee and toe are forward, and I lean toward the front leg and extend that arm either over the head or up, or if you've got shoulder stuff, you might just keep the hand on the hip. Here, if you want to work strength, then I'm going to start to let go of holding with that bottom arm. That means I've got to put a lot of pressure through the front leg, connect it to the back leg. Find that your breath, right, is really supportive if you're choosing to let that go. And I want to find that I've got a connection from the crown of my head to my back foot. One more breath here. You're going to turn the body and lift the heel to come forward. And then gently take the hands toward the floor and come into a forward bend. Shake the head no, nod the head yes. And a full breath in and a complete breath out. You'll bend the knees a lot, and this time we're going to have the left leg coming forward. So the left foot is forward, the right foot steps back, and you're finding that lift up. We're moving into a Warrior Two. Same thing, if you've got SI stuff, pivot that front foot to broaden the sacrum. If you don't, and you would know if you did, I promise, then your toe stays in alignment. The back heel pushes, the front knee moves toward it. Notice how my hips are kind of rocked forward. I want to actually push through the front foot enough to lift the front lip of the pelvis. That's going to turn my back glute on. The arms can buoyantly float to the side. There's a sense of ease through the arms. Yeah, as if I grew 10 inches. So even though I'm going down with the lower body, there's levity in the upper body. Find a sense of softness in the face. And maybe reflect on something that we talked about, equanimity, something right now that is bringing you joy, that's bringing you right back again and again and again, that's giving you hope, giving you that sort of reason to keep going. For me, it's nature right now, the fall equinox. It's so beautiful. It's really keeping me grounded. On your next full breath, we're going to shift into that side angle pose. So I'm going to bring my forearm down. My top arm could lift. If I've got shoulder stuff, I could keep the hand on the hip. I could also stretch the arm overhead. Here, I want to make sure again that the action is away. And I also want to be pushing down so much with the front heel that I could lift this bottom forearm. So I don't have to lean on it or collapse. So this is the part when we talk about how to make yoga sustainable. It's playing with and using our own body load and strength to create these shapes. And they're not one size fits all. The shape should really make sense for your body. In other words, we're not pushing into pain to get out of pain, but we're meeting our body where we're at. Take one more breath here. And then we're slowly going to lift the heart, pivot, lift the back heel. This time, we're going to take the hands down to the floor, moving through that sun salutation. You could go down to knees, or you could simply step back to downward dog. You could take child's pose or downward dog. Take a full breath in, push through the arms to reach through the tailbone. Gently lower the knees. And as you come forward, watch I'm bending my elbows as I lower my pelvis. Take that cobra pose, tops of the feet push, pelvis pushes, shoulder blades roll back, and the heart lifts. If you have capacity to lift the hands off the floor, that's going to really be very telling as to what your back strength is currently. So that's a really good observation. How do I create more muscle balance and structure in the back, more symmetrical balance, and also fight off kyphosis, which is a rounding of the upper shoulders? This is it. This is your practice. So getting on your belly and lifting that heart without your hands. If I push myself there, I move into my lumbar spine. So I want to make sure I have the strength without the hands before I start pushing. On your next breath, lower your nose and your hands. We're going to push back to child's pose. So use the hands and the hips at the same time and glide all the way back into child's pose. We'll take 3 full breaths here. Breathe in and breathe out. Gentle breath in. Long, slow breath out. And one more. Breathe in. Maybe a double exhale here if that feels good for you. Good. We'll slowly take the body up. So we'll glide the hands up and the body. Step one leg forward. This is a great practice to start to learn how to get up without the use of your hands. I'm going to curl my back toe under. Watch how I shift my chest forward to keep using momentum like I'm going for a walk. Yeah, that's it. Excellent. So if anything that you want to practice from today, if you can work on how to get up and out of chairs, up and off the floor without using your hands, it is a phenomenal practice. And the way to do that is to use the leverage of the body. So we're going to move toward the wall. So if you've got a wall or a chair, or if you don't need it for balance, no problem. That's not a problem at all. You do you. All right. I'm going to have finger pads on one side, and I'll just choose my outside leg. So whatever I've chosen, whether a chair or if I've decided to stay in the center of the room. Here, you start to pour your weight into one leg, so the leg that's closest to the wall. And again, I've just got finger pads here, nice and light. I'm going to slowly lift my foot just a couple inches off the floor. Now here, I'm just going to do small hip circles. So we're working with balance today. What is it like? And I'm imagining drawing a circle, right? This is very similar to what we did in all fours, circling the hips together. But now I'm just circling inside the acetabulum, inside the femur. So, and then reverse that circle. Now, some of you might choose to make this much bigger and just noticing what feels right for you, smaller or a larger range of motion. Notice I've got my foot flexed so that I can co-contract the muscles of the leg. Good, perfect, nice. From here, we're gonna stand and turn toward the wall. Place your hands or a chair, either way, both works fine. It could be on the seat of a chair, on the back of a chair, could be a wall. But I'm gonna walk my feet back. As I push through with my hands, watch how I reach my tailbone long. Otherwise, I would be kind of curled here. I want to push, reach, extend. I'm adjusting my hands a little bit. If I were using a chair, you always want to make sure a chair is not on a slippery surface. So I'm going to push mine all against the wall so that it doesn't move. It could be that my hands are lower, and that would mimic a little bit more of a downward dog. On the wall, it's more of a half dog, right? So you're getting that shape. The idea is to create traction in the back. How can I get some length? Keep reaching the hips toward the middle of the room. Keep reaching the arms toward the support. Without collapsing the ribs, you might even look into your belly and exhale and pull the ribs in just a little. So there's this sense of moving the back part of the body apart. Good. And again, quality of breath. Noticing if I'm using my face, tongue, or eyes to do the movement. Good. And then bend your knees and walk closer to the wall. So that same leg, what we did hip circles on, I'm going to stand on the supporting leg, and the hip circle leg, I'm going to reach it behind me, flexing my foot and pause here. So push down through your foot to reach back through your heel. And then slowly I'm going to bend my foot toward my buttock and then lower it down. I'm going to bend it toward my buttock. I could be holding a chair and lower it down or not. Bend toward my buttock. So notice my knee is behind my other knee. It could be small. It could be bigger. You might even already be feeling a Charlie horse. This is very much in the hamstrings. So that's why we kind of lengthen the hamstrings first. And then we'll slowly release that. Good. Now we're going to do the other side. So you would turn around, or it's okay if you don't see me. I'm going to exactly repeat the other side. If you have a chair, you could be using that. Stand on the other leg, lift the knee, and take hip circles. Good. It can be really small, or it could be quite large. Yeah. I also want to avoid turning my whole torso. I just want to keep my torso forward. If I'm experiencing some SI stuff and this feels jammy, keep the circle quite small, or you can simply keep it sagittal by lifting and lowering, right? So you're contracting the psoas and releasing the psoas. Hip circle allows you to see what your range of motion is, right? An internal and external rotation. And then reverse that. Yeah, good. And as much as you can, I'm staying pretty steady in the rest of my body. It can move a little bit. You're not trying to be frozen. That's not how our bodies are. But I do want to isolate the hip socket, and should feel slightly fatigued by now. And when you're ready, release that. We'll take another half dog at the wall or with a chair. So I'm going to place my hands on the wall a little bit lower than my shoulders. Walk back and reach back through the hips. See if you can lift your shoulders toward your ears and reach your tailbone further back. Shoulders to ears, tailbone back. Breath is really vibrant. So can you let the breath be nice and full here? Breathe in and long, slow breath out. Perfect. Do one more breath. Maybe a double exhale. Yeah. Perfect. You'll bend your knees, walk forward to the wall. We'll do the other side. So take the other leg behind you. Your hips are parallel, And you're going to take and flex that heel to the buttock and then bring it down. So whether you're using a chair or the wall, bring the heel to the buttock and lower it down. So I want to flex my foot, my toes going toward my shin bone, so that I'm getting that hamstring action. You got it. Maybe one more. Perfect. And last one. Excellent. And then let that go. We're going to take another action here. So whether you're facing the wall, doesn't matter. Switch to the other side, step on one leg, the other foot back, bring the heel in, keep moving the knee back and the heel up. Woo! That side, that leg, ooh. I'm going to move the heel in and the knee back. Now I have the option to lift the opposite arm. So I want to lift and stretch. I could also, if I'm going for more symmetry, same side arm. But you decide. Opposite arm is a contralateral stretch. Same side would be a lateral stretch. And then on your breath, lower down. So this is a variation of what we call Natarajasana or dancer pose. And I find this a variation of not grabbing the foot actually harder. So you're welcome. All right, you're going to take the other leg back. You'll bring the heel toward the buttock. So keep moving the knee back and the heel toward the buttock. The knee back, heel toward buttock. So there's that pelvis is coming forward, but you're symmetrical. Either the opposite arm reaches up. If I'm going for contralateral, I want to feel it through diagonally in the body, or more symmetry, same side. Take another full breath there. Squeeze the heel toward the buttock. Your hamstring's probably singing by now. And then let that go. Shake it out. Okay. We've got one more movement on the floor. So we're going to find the middle of your mat. Inhale, stretch the arms up. Maybe unlace the shoulders a little bit. Exhale, bend your knees and fold forward. Ooh, feel those hamstrings sort of unravel. Tilt the weight forward. You could always have your knees bent or only go halfway. We'll place the hands on the floor, either downward dog or all fours. You decide. We're going to lower to our belly. So the knees come down. As I lower, my elbows bend. All right. So here, the action is, if you want to do sort of TV watching position while I demonstrate, you can do that. But essentially, my forehead will be down, and I'm going to bend one leg. And ideally, right, I'm going to think about stretching the knee away from me and lifting it slightly up. I want to push with the opposite leg. So as I do this movement, my head is down, and I'm taking one heel, bringing it into the buttock, pushing like crazy with the other foot. So it pushes down while I lift the knee just a little. Heel is in and lift the knee. If that asymmetry doesn't feel good, both heels are into the buttock, and you're imagining lifting the knees off the floor and away from you at the same time. If for any reason that doesn't feel good, do the opposite. Push down with the knees and out, like you're trying to drag the legs out, and notice the sacrum move apart. It's like you're standing on the ceiling. If you're doing the individual side, let that go. Shake the hips a little bit, rock them side to side. Other foot pushes down. Other heel comes into the buttock. Start to lift that knee and move it away, but I'm pushing like crazy with the straight leg. If that doesn't work for me, asymmetry doesn't work, both heels are in and lifting, or push down, a different action that's going to release the glute, and then push to the outer edges. Take just a couple more breaths. Whatever you've chosen to do is perfect. The most important thing is I'm listening to my body. The pubic bone is moving down toward the ground, and there's this action of the knees moving back. One more breath. Stretch the legs long. Wiggle the pelvis and the hips. And then slowly bring the hands toward the heart. You're going to look behind you as you push up, lift the hips, and shift back. Okay. We'll take Dandasana, which is both legs straight in front of you. Maybe rock a little bit side to side. You could also choose to sit up on a blanket if that feels good for you. Sometimes if we have limited range of motion and hamstrings, it gives us a little more access to that. I'm going to gently walk the hands wherever I'd like to take them. If you walk them really far apart, you're going to feel a stretch through the back and the shoulders. If I don't walk quite so far and I work on flipping my tail back and pushing my heels down, I'm going to get hamstrings. If I need that hip separation feeling, if I've got SI stuff, I want to push the heels down and imagine pushing them away. So they go down and like I'm trying to push away, but I don't actually move. The action is moving. Yeah. Soften your head, neck, and jaw. One more breath here. Then you'll fold the knees in toward the belly and we'll roll down onto the back. So finding the symmetry here, you can rock side to side or forward and back. We're in a circular motion. So just noticing what you notice. If you need a more symmetrical pose, I would suggest doing a bridge pose, which is both feet on the ground, lift the pelvis. If you need a twist to unwind the spine, I would suggest arms out to the side and knees fold to the right. So you take what feels best for you. Either both feet on the ground, lift the pelvis, or if you'd like a twist, you can take the twist. If you're taking a twist, shift to the other side. See if you can soften your shoulders, your jaw, your head and neck. Come back through the center. You can either stay in this constructive rest position or you can extend the legs long. You can grab a pillow. You could also put legs over a chair or a couch or a bolster or a pillow. We're just coming into that final relaxation posture of integrating our practice today. So wherever you are, whatever you've chosen, please don't skip this part. It's really such an important part of starting to notice and feel the body when you're still. Right? We're human beings rather than human doings, but it's so hard to just be, especially if you're doing this practice in the middle of the day. So finding a way to really find some connection to the earth. What would that take for you? Notice where your feet are. Notice how your legs form on the floor. Notice how much of your spine connects or doesn't connect to the earth. Do I have access to breath? If it feels like my chin's really lifted and my breath's restricted, bring the chin down a little bit or add a support underneath the head. If the double exhale was supportive for you in the beginning of practice, consider taking it here. So you can exhale, and then a gentle inhale as full, long, and deep as it feels right for you. And then exhale twice. So exhaling, and then exhale again, followed by just a gentle inhalation. Body is breathing. When I think about equanimity, I also think about it in terms of how we connect with others. There's a beautiful quote from Harriet Lerner. She's one of my favorite psychotherapists and authors. And she writes, every person is better and more complex than the worst things he or she has done. Every individual has some strength and goodness. I'll read that again. Every person is better or more complex than the worst things that he or she has done. And every individual has some strength and some goodness. So we hold that principle. It's called generosity, assuming the best. It's not about silver lining stuff. It's about, ooh, can I pause and have the most generous interpretation here? And sometimes we can't. Sometimes the situation is what it is, and we might need space from it so we don't react. That's where the equanimity comes in. And sometimes when we get curious, yeah, we find that there's a whole story behind the other person's story, action, or response. Just like there's a whole something behind your story. So I'm curious today if you can reflect on someone, maybe someone you quite admire, maybe you admire, respect, whether you know them well or don't know them at all. And think about those qualities in them which attract you. And my best guess is we're attracted to those who we also share one or two of those qualities, or we aspire to them. Is there a part of yourself that you can be drawn toward today? Like, man, I don't know. I was thinking that I was curious this morning when I really kind of wanted to be snappy. And I appreciate that quality. Or someone was really thoughtful with me and, oh, I really value that quality. Or I appreciate how I think about my future self and prepare a little bit for the next day, most of the time. I think the stories in our heads are not always true. And what is that cassette tape telling you? Remembering what your qualities are. We'll take just a few more breaths here in silence before we close. Of course, you're always welcome to stay in Shavasana and ignore or turn off the computer. If you are ready to create some movement, you can do that. Just want to encourage you to stay courageous. The root word of core means to have heart. So to be courageous means to have heart. So moving from that place when in doubt, So often, right? We're moving from a thought. If we can find a way to pause and move from our core, our heart. Thank you all for joining.